Yeah, it's the second video, so probably actually they lost because I'm not like feeling five of them today, but I kind of felt called to record for some reason. Also ambitious of me to record and every time not to have a very clear idea what I will be talking about. But somehow most of the time it comes. So sometimes not in the very beginning, but it does come. So that's that's good to that's good to know. I'm reading actually a big novel, and it's already it's already a pretender to be a novel of the year because this year I wouldn't say I've read a lot of books. I mean, I will read more than last year, that's for sure, but a lot of them are shortish. That's why it's more. But I'm reading a big book, a big novel, meaning it's more than 1,000 pages, I think. It's an old one. It was first out in mid 70s. It's a very famous one as well. It's called The Stand by Stephen King, and I'm almost by halfway. I'm almost halfway. It actually also doesn't feel like a huge novel because I'm reading it on my Kindle and it feels like a normal size. But yeah, to me, in my mind, it feels like a 600-page novel, while in reality, I know that it's more than 1,000 pages long. But what I'm thinking about is it's very clear, at least for me, by the way he writes, that, and he also wrote about it himself as well. But even if he didn't write about it himself, it would be clear to me that he doesn't really plan it out in advance, and that he really pulls it out of the earth of something, of the ether. He just pulls out stuff, meaning he got one hero, this hero does something, there's this dynamic with their family members, there is this other hero that does something, that's this dynamic with like, it's very clear that it just comes to him and he pulls it out, comes to him and he pulls it out. And not all writers work that way, so some of them really plot the line of the novel and then they write around it. Some of them do know the ending before they know even the details of the beginning or the supporting cast, and some of them don't know the ending, and it's very clear that he doesn't know the ending either. And I mean, I really love it. Like, it's impossible not to love. I think it's so epic and it's so profound. But what I was thinking about was ultimately, as myself, um, in those moments when you're not successful at something, in those moments that you're getting rejected, in those moments that you somehow think that you will never be read by anyone, or your dreams of being published will never be realized in either language or either country or whatever, in those moments that it just doesn't work. I mean, people unsubscribe from your stuff, people criticize you, they might say something to you, they might just say nothing, just blank reject you. Might be, yeah, quite a lot of stuff. And in those moments, and ultimately after the moments, or after those moments, the moments when you get depressed, the moments when you kind of don't get why you should continue writing. Like, for example, in April, May, I really asked myself that question: why? Why are you making all that effort? Why have you dedicated so many hours of your life, thousands of hours to this thing? Why are you even talking about it? I mean, why that much effort? Because I think the amount of effort that I dedicated to writing is very comparable to the amount of effort I dedicated to my career, for example, even though my career brings me money, relationships with colleagues and networking, all that stuff, but my writing doesn't bring me much apart from the creative fulfillment. And I really asked myself that question and I really thought about it a lot because there is a part of me that is asking, but why? Why make an effort? Why? Why? Nobody reads it. Nobody, apart from a very few people, even likes it. And why are you doing that? And I always, inside myself, I always knew that I should. Always knew that I should. Even if nobody even if nobody reads it, even if for 20 years, 30 years, all my life nobody reads it, I always knew I should. But I seriously asked that of myself because obviously when you're going down that road, right? Either you want to be successful or you want to be successful in something else. Like at some point you have your ego part, again using like a philosophical yogic religious term, but you have that part of yourself who's like, where is the success? I want the success. Like, where is the achievement? Where is the applause? Where is something? Like, why didn't you dedicate your time to getting a new job? Why didn't you dedicate your time in networking more? Why didn't you dedicate your time in investing money in your I don't know blog to kind of promote it on a platform that it can be promoted on? Why didn't you invest in your social media strategy? Why didn't you do other stuff? Like all the time that I spent, on developing the characters, on writing my ideas down, and developing the plot, on editing, on restructuring, on working on it. Why didn't you spend that time on the stuff that would bring you results quicker? Why didn't you experiment on other things? Why didn't you just kind of put it on the back burner? Why not? Like, you might as well do the writing thing at 50, like now at 30. So something you might need to to spend your life on different things, like on other things. And it's a very real thought I had, because at the bottom of that thought there is always this question, but why? Why? And of course, nobody thinks about that question when you ask it of a person who is already successful. When you ask it and the person is a successful YouTuber, is a successful creative, is a successful businessman, is a successful someone, because nobody ever would ask them the question, but why? Because everybody knows why. Because they arrived at that point after a number of years, they arrived at that point, and that's why. So nobody's like, why are you making videos? Because the person has been doing it for 10 years and they have like 10 million people. And yeah, nobody asks them why. Because it's their calling, that's why. But like that answer, because it's their calling, have you ever thought that it's illogical in the beginning, but very logical at the end? Like in the beginning, it's a very illogical answer, because if I respond, that's my calling, which is true. But if I responded, people are like, do you mean calling like that woo woo stuff? Why you do like why are you thinking about that? You should be thinking about money and career goals and your next stage in life and getting married and like calling? What do you mean calling? Like who now follows the calling? Like when when you say that phrase, follow your calling or follow the call or whatever, people are like, are you a Buddhist monk or like Oprah? And even though I deeply respect Buddhist monks and Oprah as well, but people still would react a bit weird if you would say it's my calling. They're like, okay, okay, it doesn't bring you anything, but okay, right? But if the person is successful and they're like, that's my calling, people are like, whoa, this is huge, this is great, this guy or this gal has followed the call. Wow, wow. So it's interesting, right? But ultimately, I really thought about that because I really pondered, why am I continuing that? Why? Why would that intensity? Why can't I just do it 10 minutes a day? I mean, I could, and just do the stuff that brings me more satisfaction and results in other areas of life, in the remaining 24 hours minus 10 minutes. But the thing is, I arrived at that answer, at the real answer, because I believe that mm, I don't know, again, it could be like a religious concept, but I'm not that religious, at least I'm leaning that way, but I'm wouldn't call myself a religious person because I just anyway don't think I am in the classic sense, but if there are ideas and those ideas for some reason are arriving to me, then what does that mean? Because there definitely are ideas that I got and that definitely arrived to me. Some of them related to my own life, some of them unrelated to my own life. Some of them, ultimately, I think the idea is something that arrives to you and you fill it with your own life. For example, I don't know, an idea about a couple that wants to divorce. I was never married and I never wanted to divorce, but I could feel that story if that was a story I wanted to tell, but something of mine. I could feel it with my own experience and my own understanding of how couples work, how relationships work, and how life works in general. And those ideas came to me, and I don't have an answer why. But I experienced the same when you have an idea. And this thing is not only me experiencing it, people talk about it all the time. I mean, David Lynch talked about it in the masterclass. Uh, Elizabeth Gilbert talked about it in the Big Magic book. I mean, Stephen King talks about it in his book on writing. And ultimately, an idea is something that you can't ignore. If it's big enough and if it's persistent enough, there is this thing like a small bird that is like flying around and chattering, talking to you, and you like just it's like humming. It's just like constant nagging. And those ideas came, and I don't know why. Because I haven't asked. Like I don't remember a single time in my life just asking, like, send me an idea. Like asking the universe, whomever, send me the idea. Like give me the idea, I wanna write it. I didn't ask. I didn't ask at all. It just comes and I catch. It just comes and I catch. And like when you really work on it, it will be like 200 pages afterwards. So like that's the whole thing. And the ideas are something material at the end of the day because you made them so. And at the end of the day, you feel like a vessel for that stuff. And you're not even sure that your writing is that good or your mind is that good to bring it into life. And or that someone would read it or that your dialogue is that proficient or that you have done a nice job of doing that shit. But ultimately, they arrived to me. And I was never able to find any explanation for that. And I continue bringing them into life and I continue working on it. And some of them, were just experiments or something that I had to do in order to do something else. Some of them I know I will never try to redraft it because it was just not, ultimately, the project just was not. I mean, it was viable, but maybe not viable enough to be published. I mean, some of them are just too short or too tragic, or I don't know. I never know what the idea will amount to, but they came to me. So when I think about it, I'm like, if I follow life and the indications that life gives me, all that stuff I've talked about before, like writers looking for nudges and signs and the alignment stuff and like whatever stuff. I don't want to talk about the woo woo part of it, but if I ultimately follow what life wants me to follow, if I ultimately want to listen what I'm told by life, Because to be honest, I don't have any compass or like a decision making mechanism or a business plan, or like I don't have anyone dictating me what to do, and nobody does. And I don't really want to listen to others neither. I mean, to Instagram or YouTube or like, of course, I could listen to whatever narrative they try to feed me. But ultimately, if I'm listening to life, if I'm listening to what I'm being sent ideas. And I'm being sent ideas for books. Sometimes in my native language, like recently in English, because I had an ambition to write in English, and I'm being sent this, and I have a way of expressing it, and I express it, and whatever, and I'm being, I want to say guided, but I don't know, guided maybe it's again a very woo woo concept, and you can feel that I'm like struggling with woo woo stuff, but still, like if it's happening, imagine it's like, I don't know, a train that is going on a certain track, and maybe it can go on a different track but has a certain speed, and I'm just that train. Sometimes I feel like I'm that train. I'm that train going forward and not knowing where I'm going. And I can't even I'm not even sure I can go on a different track and I will not crash if I change the track. Ultimately, those things are just coming and I'm just kind of writing them down. And those things are just coming and I'm writing them down, and that's how it goes. And I mean, sometimes it feels a bit, not a bit, but like punishing. Because you feel like you're being punished. Punished meaning like nobody reads it, nobody, like for the moment, nobody reads it, nobody appreciates it, nobody like compliments you, nobody applauds you, whatever. You're just feeling like you're this train that you constantly have to move at a certain speed because you being you, you get the ideas, you get the stuff, you're not quite sure. Like, I mean, I might be struggling with it a lot more than people are, because some people just never question their calling. Some people have never questioned what they're meant to do in life. Some people have never questioned that they have to be or work in finance, be accountants, or be singing, or be performing, or they never had that question. But why I'm moving in that direction? Why is it though so strong? Like, what's awaiting me? What will happen at the end of the track? Will I just get off the rails eventually? Because it's quite dangerous to be going at that speed and not even knowing where you're going. Because at times when you get the ideas or you get the nudge, or you get something and you begin to do the thing and you begin to make it real, simultaneously you feel supported and you feel fortunate. Of course, you feel lucky, but at the same time you feel like you're just getting in a certain direction and you have no idea why. You have no idea why you have no idea. Are you the right person to do this? Who gave you the right? Who gave you the permission? What are you supposed to think about all of this? You are just kind of like going. At least that's how I interpret it. But ultimately, it kind of brings me solace to think about it as a process in the universe, that there's this the all everything is a process. Construction of a building is a process. Growth of a human being is a process. Making any material object is a process, and receiving of ideas and writing books from the ideas is a process. And if I am the instrument in that process for some reason, and that process is happening not with only with me but with all creatives all over the world, everyone gets ideas, everyone executes them with better or worse level of audience, but better or worse level of execution. If that process is happening, if those ideas are coming to me, then maybe in this period of my life, that's my direction, that's my track. I don't know why, but this process is happening and I'm in this process. And that's my why. And I don't feel like I'm supposed to do a different process. Like looking for a new job, for example. Like, I just don't feel like I'm supposed to be in a different process at the moment. I'm supposed to be in this one. And the times it's very hard to trust it. It's almost impossible, to be honest. You want to just get off track. You don't understand. But this process is working, and those ideas are coming, and the words are coming. And if they're coming, I mean, they're coming.